Hey everyone, this is Snatch Gaming. I'm Mike. And did you ever play a game that you knew was flawed, but you kept playing it anyways? You could list all the flaws that the game has really nicely on a big checklist. But for some reason, despite itself, the game still drew you in, you still finished it all the way through. Well, that's definitely the case with a game I played recently, which is D4 Dark Dreams Don't Die. And that's a downloadable game on the Xbox One currently. And I just want to get into a little bit about what makes this game so appealing despite all the faults that it has. Let's check it out. D4 is a murder mystery game taking place in, I guess, a present-day adventure setting, we'll say. It's very much in the vein of Deadly Premonition, and both games are developed by Access Games and development lead Suehiro Hidetaka. Much like its predecessor, D4 involves solving puzzles, getting you closer to solving the mystery, while also using a lot of QuickTime events and button presses that correspond to a lot of real-life interactions like opening doors, grabbing objects, things like that. If you've played games by Quantic Dream like Indigo Prophecy or Heavy Rain, you'll know exactly what you're in for here. You control Detective David Young, whose girlfriend Little Peggy was murdered under unusual circumstances and found in the couple's apartment lying dead in the bathtub.
I have no memories of that day. When I came to, I was already lying in the ICU. The only thing I do remember are the words that little Peggy whispered as she died.
Look for D.
What is D? A person? A place? It's completely wide open as to where this extremely vague clue will take the player. David is obsessed with this one and only clue and suspicious of anyone that might have anything to do with the letter D. Needless to say, you've got your work cut out for you. Central to the gameplay is while David has developed amnesia surrounding the events of the murder, he also has gained the ability to travel through time. However, he can only do this through touching items that have some bearing on time and place, as far as where he wants to go. For instance, an air marshal's badge recovered from a crashed airplane lets David go back in time to where the plane was still in the air and all passengers were alive for him to question. This is where the majority of the game takes place. An air marshal is transporting a prisoner who has ties to a drug called New Blood, which was found when little Peggy's autopsy was performed. Since he never knew Peggy to be a drug user, David seeks out any information about New Blood, which has suddenly and very recently taken the market by storm. As such, the police know very little about the drug itself and who sells it, so we have even more ambiguity added to the mix. As you can probably tell, there's a lot going on here, so maybe it's not such a bad thing that the game pretty much takes you wherever you need to go. Once you're there, you can explore all you want, but the design is very much in contrast to an open world. You'll typically have a main objective that involves questioning one or more individuals, and also some side quests, but they're not very fruitful. They're just more of the same or something you're already on your way to doing anyways. I say this because you can explore, but at least in the particular segment of this overall story arc, there's only so much to see. Like I said, most of its events take place in the cabin of an airplane. The developers did put a lot of effort into what's there, though. Magazines you pick up will offer brief, sometimes hilarious articles on their subject matter. Some seemingly irrelevant items are actually clues, and David's apartment is chock full of random things to examine, all of them giving insight towards David's personal life, or he and Peggy's relationship as a couple. The game also tracks everything you find, so if you're into finding all kinds of tchotchkes, this game will give you enough to do for its price tag. The game is pretty much a plot-driven detective story with a decent number of distractions. Here's what it has going for it that might interest you. It has a great art style. I love the art style and especially the vibrant colors in this game. It's unique and makes the game stand out, and the cell shading is well done but doesn't clash with the subject matter by being too cartoony. Another positive is the diverse cast of characters. Some are shifty and enigmatic, some seem to be supernatural, some are just batshit crazy, but in a good way that you'll find entertaining.
Your exclamation just lifted the fog from my brain in a flash! Now, say it with me! Oh, God!
This all lends itself to a great atmosphere and a world you don't mind visiting, even if there's only a finite number of things to do. The whodunit plot, where no one is who they seem, combined with stimulating visuals, are what will draw you in, and they just might hook you till the end as well. It's a beautiful game that succeeds in making you curious about who you'll meet next, and to see what plot points lie ahead. This is a game with some glaring flaws, though, and some pretty strange oddities in terms of gameplay. So it's up to you whether you're the type of gamer that enjoys these idiosyncrasies or not. For every goofy character or humorous encounter, there's another that counterbalances the good stuff with just plain odd development decisions. One task has you running up and down the aisle of the airplane, making sure the seats, doors, and windows are all safe and secure in order to soothe a particularly unstable passenger.
The window noise bugs you that much?
Okay, hot stuff. Let me ask you then. You're saying it doesn't bug you at all? It's making sounds. Sounds that you aren't supposed to hear. What'll happen if it breaks?
This goes on for far too long and takes repeated efforts to move on from. There's also a prominent character that talks in a really creepy voice, but then it just becomes grating after a while. You'll also be doing a lot of quick time events, some that could have been a lot of fun if there were an actual combat and evade system. By the way, you can use the Kinect throughout the game, and while it's not as bad as you might think, I still switched to the controller almost immediately. Lastly, the story gets bogged down in a few places with overly long conversations, sometimes regarding things that have nothing to do with the plot whatsoever.
Yeah, clam chowder! No matter how you slice it, Boston has the best clam chowder in the world. You're with me on this, right? Right? Huh? Oh, but Diana just can't see it.
I have no basis for comparison.
What?
I've never eaten clam chowder anywhere but Boston.
So it's the best in the world by default!
Seriously, sometimes it's basically two characters chit-chatting while you sit and watch. As you can tell, there are strong pros and cons here. How important is a good story to you? Is it enough to overlook some very curious design choices? If you're happy to just be along for the ride, D4 is a good time. You can finish this first installment in 2 to 3 hours, but my playthrough was about 4 to 5 since I took my time to soak in the atmosphere. Make no mistake though, there are only a handful of places you'll find yourself in, and most of the poking and prodding is done in David's apartment. The game does have some decent unlockables though, including a lot of outfits for the main characters, some of which you've seen in the footage here. So now that we've kind of examined all the pros and cons of D4 Dark Dreams Don't Die, would I say it's worth a purchase? Well, it really does depend. If you're into fast, tight pacing and robust gameplay, this is probably something I would pass on if I were you. If you're into the quirkiness and the art style, if the trailer attracts you, I would give it a shot. The only problem I will say is that no matter who you are, the $14.99 price tag that's on Xbox One downloadable games can be a lot to accept. I think downloadable games should really be great if you're going to spend that $15. So consider that too. It's free for now on Xbox One, but that won't last very long. So if you want me to justify the $15 price tag for you, I'd say that you have to be into some really offbeat games to get your money's worth here. That doesn't mean it's a bad game though. The game is sold pretty terribly, to be honest with you. But I think if enough people were willing to think outside the box, they might enjoy it. But I wouldn't blame you either way, because the price tag is steep. So that's all for now. Till next time, see you again on Snatch Gaming. I'm Mike.